Have you ever been in a situation where nothing is actually stopping you, but you still can't move?
That specific feeling.
No obstacle, no lack of time, no missing resource. Everything you need is technically there. And yet, you stay exactly where you are, day after day, telling yourself you'll start when something changes.
But nothing changes.
Nothing changes because nothing is stopping you except the one thing you haven't wanted to look at directly.
And that thing is?
Fear. You're not stuck, you're scared. And those two things look identical from the outside, but they require completely different responses.
I'm Jake.
And I'm Anna. Welcome to Speak First English, where we speak first and think second.
This is the third episode in our series. We started with "You're not lazy, you're overwhelmed." Then, "You're not tired, you're disconnected." And today, the third truth that might be the one most people need to hear most.
You're not stuck, you're scared. And once you know that, once you name it, the path forward becomes visible. Not easy, not guaranteed, but visible.
Let's find the path.
Today's topic, you're not stuck, you're scared.
And we want to start with something that might feel uncomfortable. The word stuck is comfortable. When you say, "I'm stuck," it implies an external force, something holding you in place, something that needs to change before you can move.
Stuck is passive. Stuck happens to you. Stuck means you're waiting.
And waiting feels productive somehow, like you're doing the responsible thing. I'll move when the conditions are right. I'll start when I feel ready. I'll try when I'm sure it will work.
But fear is different. Fear is internal. Fear is something you're doing, not something being done to you. And that means you have agency over it in a way you don't have agency over being stuck.
And the shift from "I'm stuck" to "I'm scared," that shift gives you back the steering wheel.
Because if you're stuck, you wait for something outside you to change. But if you're scared, you can start to work with what's inside. You can name the fear. You can examine it. You can choose whether to let it decide or whether to move anyway.
That's today's episode, the shift, the naming, and the moving anyway.
Before we start, please share this episode. Share it with someone who has been stuck for too long, who has been waiting for something external to change before they can move. Because sometimes the kindest thing you can offer someone is the right word for what's actually happening.
Let's get into it. Anna, let's start with the distinction. What does it actually mean to be stuck versus to be scared? Because from the inside, they can feel identical.
From the inside, they can be indistinguishable. Both involve not moving. Both involve time passing. Both involve a growing sense of frustration or resignation.
So what's the diagnostic question?
The diagnostic question is if the fear was gone, if you knew with absolute certainty it would work out, would you move?
And if the answer is yes?
Then you're not stuck, you're scared. Because stuck means you genuinely can't move. The path is blocked, the resource is missing, the circumstance is impossible. But if you would move if the fear was gone, then fear is the only thing keeping you in place. And fear, unlike a blocked path, can be worked with.
Think of it like ice on a river. When a river is genuinely blocked by rocks, by drought, by something structural, the water cannot flow. It sits, it waits, it needs something external to change.
But when a river is frozen, the water is still there, the energy is still there, the current is still there. It's not blocked, it's held in a temporary state by something that responds to warmth.
And the warmth, the courage, the understanding, the right conditions, that melts the ice, gradually, sometimes suddenly.
But you have to know it's ice, not rock, because the solution to ice is completely different from the solution to rock.
If you think it's rock, you wait forever for someone to move something that isn't there.
If you know it's ice, you start to look for warmth. Anna, Jake, I want to ask you something I've never asked directly. What is something you stayed scared about for longer than you should have? Not in retrospect it was fine, but something where the fear kept you genuinely stuck for a long time.
That's a real question. Okay, speaking in English in front of people who were more fluent than me, for years.
Tell us about that.
So I spoke English. I'd been speaking it for a long time. My level was fine, more than fine. But in rooms with native speakers or with people who I perceived as more fluent or more educated, I would go quiet, volunteer less, answer shorter, contribute smaller than I was capable of.
What were you afraid of?
That they would notice the difference, that some imperfection in my phrasing, some accent remaining, some grammatical choice would mark me as less, as not belonging, as someone who was performing fluency rather than having it.
You named it as a preference rather than a fear.
Because preference is comfortable. Preference is who you are. Fear is something you're doing and something you could theoretically address, and I wasn't ready to address it.
And when did it change?
When I finally said the actual thing out loud, not to myself, to someone else. I'm afraid that if I speak fully in these rooms, people will notice I'm not native and think less of me. Saying it out loud made it sound like what it was, a story I had been running, not a fact of the world.
And the story became smaller when it had to exist in the world rather than just in your head.
Massively smaller, because the person I said it to, a friend, just looked at me and said, "Jake, nobody is thinking that. They're thinking about what they're going to say next."
The spotlight effect.
The spotlight effect. We are not as watched as we think. And naming the fear was the beginning of being free from it. Not immediately, but it began.
And that naming, that's what today's about.
Let's get into the tips. Tip 1, and this is the diagnostic at the core of everything else. Tip 1, do the fear identification.
Because you can't work with what you haven't named. And most people who are stuck have never precisely identified what they're actually afraid of.
There are 4 core fears underneath most stuckness, and knowing which one is yours changes what you do next.
The first, fear of failure. If I try and it doesn't work, what does that say about me? This fear keeps people from starting things they care about too much to risk.
The second, fear of success. Less obvious, but just as real. If this works, what changes? What do I lose? What becomes expected of me? Sometimes it's safer to stay small.
The third, fear of judgment. What will people think if I try this, if I put myself out there, if I speak English imperfectly in front of people who might notice?
And the fourth, fear of change itself. If I move, my life changes. And even if the change might be good, the known is safer than the unknown, even when the known isn't working.
Most stuckness lives in one of these 4 places, and the diagnostic exercise is simple. Sit down and ask yourself, if you imagine taking the step you've been avoiding, what is the first feeling that arrives?
Not the logical objection, the first feeling. That feeling is the fear, and the fear's category tells you how to work with it.
In English, here's how to name it. I think what's keeping me stuck is the fear of failure, of investing and not getting the result. I've realized I'm afraid of judgment, of putting myself out there and being seen to try and not make it.
I think I'm more afraid of what success would require of me than I am of failure.
Honestly, I think I'm just afraid of the change itself, of who I'd be on the other side.
These sentences, when you say them out loud, do something that staying stuck doesn't. They give the fear a shape, and shaped things are workable. Shapeless things are just everything.
Tip number 2, and this one goes one level deeper into the story you've been telling yourself about why you can't move. Tip 2, do the story audit.
Because fear rarely announces itself as fear. It arrives disguised as logic, as practicality, as wisdom, as reasons.
I'm not ready yet. The timing isn't right. I need more experience. I need to learn more first. I'll do it when things settle down.
Every one of these might be true. They might be genuine, practical, wise assessments of the situation.
Or they might be fear speaking in the voice of reason.
And the story audit is the way to tell the difference. You take the story, I'm not ready, and you ask 3 questions.
Question 1. What would ready actually look like? Can I describe it concretely? If you can describe it, you can work toward it. If you can't describe it, if ready is always something vague and always in the future, that's fear disguising itself.
Question 2. How long have I been telling this story? If the answer is months or years, ask yourself whether the conditions have genuinely not changed or whether you keep moving the goalposts.
Question 3. If I imagine doing the thing right now, before I'm ready, what is the actual worst case that I'm protecting against? Name it, specifically, not it could go wrong, what exactly would go wrong? And if it did, could I survive it?
Most fears, when you name the actual worst case specifically, become smaller. Not gone, but smaller, because the imagination of failure is always more catastrophic than the reality of it.
In English, the language for doing this audit is, I've been telling myself I'm not ready, but when I try to describe what ready means, I can't. I realize the story I've been telling myself is fear dressed up as practicality.
When I ask myself what the actual worst case is, it's not as bad as the fear was making it feel.
The story audit. Examine the reason. Ask if it's real or if it's fear wearing reason's clothes.
Tip number 3, and this one is where movement begins, not the leap, the smallest possible step. Tip 3, find and take the smallest possible step.
Because one of the biggest lies fear tells us is moving means a dramatic leap, a full commitment, an all or nothing moment.
And that framing keeps most people in place because they can't do the dramatic leap, and they believe that's the only option.
But movement doesn't start with leaps. It starts with shifts, tiny, specific, almost embarrassingly small acts in the direction of the thing you're afraid of.
For an English learner who is afraid of speaking, the smallest possible step is not a presentation in front of 100 people. It's saying one sentence out loud to yourself, or writing one comment, or answering one question in a conversation before letting someone else take over.
For someone afraid to change careers, the smallest possible step is not quitting their job. It's having one conversation with one person who works in the field they're interested in.
For someone afraid to start a creative project, the smallest possible step is not completing the work. It's opening the document and writing one sentence, any sentence.
And here's what happens when you take the smallest possible step. 2 things. First, you survive it, which sounds obvious but is actually the most important data point. You did the feared thing, even a tiny version of it, and the world continued, and you're still here.
Second, you have evidence against the fear. The fear says, this will be terrible. The evidence says, I tried it. It was uncomfortable. It was not terrible.
And evidence accumulates, one small step at a time, until the fear's credibility, which was never that high to begin with, gets lower and lower.
Think of it like a muscle. You don't build courage by thinking about being courageous. You build it by doing small courageous things repeatedly until the capacity for courage grows.
The smallest possible step. Find it. Make it genuinely small. Take it today. And notice, you're still here. Tip number 4, and Jake already demonstrated this one in his own story. Tip 4, speak the fear out loud.
In English, to another person, or to yourself, but out loud.
Because fear lives most powerfully in silence, in the unspoken place, where it can be anything, as large as it wants to be, as certain as it wants to be, as permanent as it wants to be.
But spoken fear is smaller than unspoken fear, almost without exception, because words have edges, and edges are limits, and limited things are manageable in a way that shapeless things aren't.
Here's the language for speaking fear out loud in English.
I want to tell you something I've been avoiding saying. I'm actually scared of the opener that opens everything.
I've been calling this not being ready, but honestly, I think it's fear, naming the disguise.
I'm afraid that if I try, it won't work, and I'm more afraid of that than I want to admit. Vulnerable and specific.
The reason I haven't started is fear of judgment. I'm working on that.
I realized I've been scared to speak English properly because I'm afraid people will notice I'm not native. Saying that out loud already makes it smaller.
That last sentence is the key. Saying that out loud already makes it smaller, because it does. The act of speaking the fear into the world reduces its power, not eliminates, reduces.
And when someone else hears it, really hears it, and responds with recognition or warmth, it reduces further, because fear thrives on isolation, on the belief that you're the only one carrying this, and nobody ever is.
Speak the fear out loud, in English, today, to someone who will hear it without flinching.
And our final tip, tip 5, and this is the language of what happens after the fear is named, the language of deciding to move despite it.
Tip 5. Build your language of moving anyway.
Because naming the fear is not the same as being free from it. You name it, you speak it, you take the smallest step, and the fear is still there.
And you move anyway. That's the whole thing. You move anyway.
Here's the language for that decision.
I'm scared, and I'm doing it. The simplest and most honest version. Both truths at once.
I've decided to stop waiting for the fear to go away before I start. The key insight: fear doesn't go away first. Courage doesn't precede action. You start, then something changes.
I'm not waiting until I'm ready. I'm using the fact that I'm scared as a signal that this matters.
That one. The fear is a signal that something matters. Because what are we afraid of losing? What are we afraid of failing at? Usually, the things we care about most.
I've realized that the things I'm most afraid of are the things I care about most. And that means the fear is pointing me towards something important.
I've been using "I'm not ready" as a reason to stay comfortable. I'm choosing to be uncomfortable instead.
And specifically for English, for everyone who has been waiting to speak until their English is perfect, I'm done waiting for perfect. I'm speaking with what I have, imperfectly, bravely, today.
Imperfectly, bravely, today. Those 3 words.
Not tomorrow when conditions are better, not later when the fear is gone, today with the fear still there, imperfectly, bravely.
The language of moving anyway. It doesn't come after the fear, it comes through it. Anna, today's words are about fear, courage, and the vocabulary of finally moving. Let's look at them.
Yes, our word tour. These words will help you describe the experience of being scared, but moving anyway, in real, honest English conversations.
First word, paralyzed.
Paralyzed means unable to move or act, frozen by fear or indecision. I've been paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong choice. Or fear of judgment paralyzed me every time I thought about speaking in English in public.
Next, avoidance.
Avoidance is the act of staying away from something you fear, usually in ways that feel rational or justified. I've been in avoidance for months. I keep finding reasons not to start. Or avoidance is comfortable in the short term and very costly in the long term.
Then, vulnerable or vulnerability.
We've used this before, but in this context, it means specifically the risk of being seen trying, of putting yourself out there before you're sure it will work. Speaking English imperfectly is vulnerable. You're showing where you are before you're where you want to be. Or vulnerability is not weakness. It's the willingness to be seen before the outcome is certain.
We also used agency.
Agency means the capacity to make your own choices and take your own actions. Naming my fear as fear, instead of calling it being stuck, gave me back my agency. Or, as long as I think I'm stuck, I'm waiting for something outside me. When I name the fear, I have agency over it.
And threshold.
The threshold in this context is the specific point at which fear stops stopping you, where you decide to move despite it. I've been hovering at the threshold for a long time, not quite able to step through. Or, every time I take a small step, the threshold gets lower.
And one more, momentum.
Momentum is the energy that builds when you keep going, the forward motion that makes continuing easier than stopping. Once I took the first small step, momentum started building. Each next step was slightly easier. Or, the hardest moment is always before momentum exists. Once it's there, it carries you.
Your speaking gym challenge today? Speak the fear out loud. Right now, after this episode, finish this sentence in English out loud alone. The thing I've been avoiding because I'm scared is ... Just say it. No one else has to hear it. You do.
Before we finish, 4 things, starting with the most important one.
Step 1, do the fear identification. Which of the 4 fears is underneath your stuckness? Failure, success, judgment, or change itself? Name it, in English, out loud.
Step 2, do the story audit. What story have you been telling yourself? Can you describe ready concretely? How long have you been waiting? What is the actual specific worst case?
Step 3, find the smallest possible step. Not the leap, the shift. Take it today.
Step 4, speak the fear out loud. Fear shrinks when it has to exist in the world rather than just in your head. I'm actually scared of... Say it. Let it be smaller.
Quick recap.
Tip 1. The fear identification. Failure, success, judgment, or change. Which one is the ice in your river?
Tip 2. The story audit. I'm not ready might be wisdom, or it might be fear wearing reason's clothes. The 3 questions tell you which.
Tip 3. The smallest possible step. Not the leap, the shift. Take it today.
Tip 4. Speak the fear out loud. Fear shrinks when it has to exist in the world rather than just in your head.
Tip 5. The language of moving anyway. I'm scared, and I'm doing it. Imperfectly, bravely, today.
Our question for today, and this one is the most personal in the trilogy.
What is the one thing you've been calling being stuck that is actually fear? Just one. Name it in the comments. In English.
Because you are not stuck. The path is not blocked. The river is not dry.
The river is frozen, and warmth exists.
And the first warmth, the first degree of temperature that begins to melt the ice is this, naming it, here, now, out loud.
You are not stuck. You are scared. And that changes everything.
This was Speak First English.
Until next time, speak first, think second. And please take the smallest step today. Not tomorrow, not when you're ready, today. Imperfectly, bravely. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.